then you can get anywhere in those sites. Like, and they want you. They're like, hey, we got like the crazy site over here. Just like cough up a little bit. And so my first couple of days in Egypt was so expensive because I kept falling for the curiosity. And I was like, well, I guess I got a little bit. I got some pounds here, some pounds there, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need to go to the ATM again. But that's the thing. Like all these sites kind of are open and available to anyone, so long as like you got a little bit of bakshish. So you can't start digging there, but in terms of like seeing iconography and like structure and form and maybe putting things together across different sites and time periods, taking good photos. Some people report like odd like health and wellness feelings or certain like electromagnetic effects or something. So like getting more comprehensive records for maybe things like that. This is all in the realm of possibility for that. So
And that's the difference between reading about purported acoustic properties versus walking in there yourself. And then if you experience something, you know from firsthand effect that, hey, there is something to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking of which, on Pilot Mountain, while they were doing the whole ceremony, I noticed you were over there grounding and getting a little meditation going on right before the sunset. Did you be picking up any vibes or?
Yeah, definitely. Pilot Mountain is a pretty cool place because that's also we went there again on Tuesday. So just like a day or two before that meteor, but the day after Cosmic Summit officially came to an end, which was on Monday. And we spoke to the spirit of the mountain and everything. And we also asked it for a sign. Like at least I did. Like I crawled into the cave that you can crawl into, and I was like, here to be Earth's servant and messenger, and give us a sign that you heard us. And then we get this meteor that people purport flew over Pilot Mountain before going into Georgia.
Yeah.
It was hard to find the exact track of it, but that's what I saw. People reporting on like it actually flew over Pilot Mountain or that zone. It's like, all right, there's something to this. So yeah, I felt the energy quite strongly, and we had the Native American elder or shaman, we call him, who was leading some of the ceremony for the opening trip on Friday, and I thought that was really good too.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, he's Yona Frenchuk. He's supposed to be coming on the show here eventually, so hopefully that happens. So, like I mentioned, it's kind of biographical in nature. So, would you mind sharing with us, like, who Stefan Burns is? Where does he come from? And how did he get into this stuff?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I maybe I don't really know who I am. People from high school don't recognize me anymore. I look quite a bit different. But it's just, you change, but I'm not really any different than what I was, but a lot of people, they don't change at all. I'm always kind of changing and mutating a little bit, it seems. So there's a constant evolution to who I am. And that's all driven in large part by my curiosity and just what I find interesting. I chase that down. And so I always had an interest in nature and in rocks and biology and all these subjects, history and archaeology as a kid, like very much someone that's interested in a ton of different things. And after high school, went to UC Davis and got a degree in geology. And originally it was a degree in history. And at the junior college, I did like 5 classes in anthropology and archaeology because I was super fascinated with it. So I effectively have a minor in that too, though it's not official or anything. But I did enough classes basically to do that. And then after geology, got into geophysics and better understanding the Earth through these geophysical methods, like taking magnetic field measurements, taking seismic measurements, and measuring the sound waves, microseismic waves, and passive seismic, and doing resistivity surveys, a lot of GPR, so ground penetrating radar, and just building up that knowledge base and expertise set through all that normal career work before eventually just simply the container, I guess you could say, just wasn't big enough anymore. So I left my job and ventured off into the world and started a YouTube channel, which already had maybe 50 subscribers. Because I uploaded like 2 videos that almost no one watched, but it gave me like 50 subscribers over like 5 years or something. And just slowly started to build that out until it is where it is now. And now I have a lot more freedom and flexibility to do more things. It was part of a research sabbatical.
Yep.
You research into a lot of topics, and then best way for me of really integrating something is then do a presentation on that, a final end result deliverable. So that's the video or the video presentation, or it's like the video essay, whatever it is. So the YouTube is really an outgrowth of me wanting to do deep research on a bunch of things and giving myself the time to do that. Because if you're doing a normal 9 to 5, it's really difficult to do some sort of side hustle, you could call it. It's possible. It's just so difficult nowadays, and especially if other responsibilities, pets, family, then it gets even more difficult. So
that was a great overview, and not terribly dissimilar from Dave and I's foray into YouTubing ourselves. I never would have started this on a 9 to 5 or a 7 to 7 or anything like that.
Yeah, same. I took some time off work for a back injury, and I was like, Mike and I met at Cosmic Summit, the previous one, and so I was like, hey, want to start a crappy YouTube channel? And he was like, yeah. And then so here we are. Now here we are.
Would you mind, right before you transitioned into content creation, the nature of that research? Was it with a private research outfit? Was it with a university affiliated research org? How was that going?
No, I mean, I think the future of learning is basically just self-directed. Fortunately, it's also a skill. So there's a skill to learning skills. And so that's an important component to recognize. And not everyone has that skill as developed. So then the first step for them would be to develop the skill of acquiring skills. But it's just all self-directed because I've already been pretty good at information acquisition. I mean, in school, all the way up until calculus, which is the calculus classes that math majors had to take, I never really had to study anything. I could just hear it and just know it. But then in college, I really learned how to actually study, and then I kept that going forward. And so I had a variety of topics that I was interested in, and I knew that I just wanted to learn more about them. So it was like, okay, let's load up the papers, let's read them, highlight them, produce the videos as the end result deliverable, because it's very efficient. I can perhaps get some YouTube subscribers and maybe eventually get the channel monetized and make some money, keep this going. But it's also this education delivery, not for myself, but also for others. But it was all just self-directed. It wasn't through any single organization or group or going back and getting a master's or anything like that. It's been an idea, but nowadays I don't think you need to. And you don't have to then deal with the baggage that comes with a lot of universities now with all this special DEI or whatever stuff. It's just, there's just a lot of stuff that's not what you're actually there for now. But it works. That method works best if you have the self-motivation, discipline, and you know how to kind of do it in the first place. And then you're willing to develop that skill, and be slower at first and it gets faster later on. So that's an important caveat. But
it's a good observation that a lot of times universities are run by business people and are subject to the whatever's in vogue in the business world of that time.
Yeah. And so in 2020, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask, did COVID have something to do with you just changing directions and going hard on your YouTube channel?
Yeah, I mean, we had to switch to work from home, so I didn't have to go into the office anymore. So I switched to work from home. But I mean, if I bring in one of the topics I talk about a lot on my channel, that's astrology. I also have some huge astrological activations, you could say. So believe it or not, I didn't know this at the time. I looked back later, I was like, oh, wow, okay, that makes perfect sense now. You learned the symbology and the archetypal symbolism, and basically it was spot on with the date and time and everything. So the simple way of putting it is that this was destined by the universe to happen. I wasn't meant to stay in a certain path. I was meant to really venture off my own. And then, for example, the reason I think these ancient sites are important to visit and study more, and I've done a lot of that myself, actually. I just don't make videos on it. It's not like I've been to every site in the world, but I've done quite a lot of my time, spent a lot of my time over the past 3-4 years traveling around the world visiting these sites, or at least ones I find interesting. Some of them aren't really mainstream. For example, like Varna in Bulgaria is a really interesting site, but it's not in the ancient history community. It's more Neolithic. I think the Neolithic is really interesting. But I think it's important to like experience these things yourself. And after I went to Egypt, that's right when the YouTube channel like blew up. So there was definitely a ton of synchronicities when I went to Egypt. I went inside 5 different pyramids, went to a ton of different temples. I went there intentionally too, not just like, oh, taking photos and going like this. Like I was purposely connecting to the ancient energies there, invoking them, calling upon them, and really forming that shared resonance. And then less than a month after I came back from that trip, I had a video do really well, all of a sudden go viral, and that bumped me up from 5,000 to 35,000 in about a month. And so that then kickstarted the whole thing. Getting to 5,000 was a huge grind, like 2+ years. But all of a sudden, once you're at like 35,000 or 50, now you can start to grow quite a bit faster, and it's actually worthwhile. So, but that happened right after Egypt. Coincidence or not, I don't know. You decide. But I personally, I'm like, that was definitely not coincidence. It felt like an activation from going there consciously.
What was the video topic that blew you up?
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, it's the thing. It wasn't any different than some of my other videos I was making. Very similar to the format right now, where I just bring everything together. That one specifically, though, was on how we had Saturn moving signs. So it's moving from Aquarius into Pisces. And basically, I was just talking about, this 3-day period, like this is it, like the activations here are just something catchy for the algorithm. Never worked before, but I figured it was a good thing. And so I went ahead and released that, and it just blew up on the channel. So it just happened to catch the thumbnail wasn't especially good, but it happened to catch interest.
Was that exciting or scary or both? Like, was that pretty exhilarating when it's all of a sudden your YouTube's just going nuts like that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not scary. I mean, as you guys know, you watch a video and see how it performs. Then all of a sudden there's a state change. And so you may be watching the analytics and it's like, oh yeah, like you're getting, let's say, I remember at one point I had a video that went to 3,000 views, and that was like a big increase. I was like, whoa, it's doing like 100 views an hour. Awesome, right? Well, then this one all of a sudden is doing like 5,000 views an hour or 10,000 views an hour. So it just shifts your perspective, and makes you realize that there's a lot more people out there that are interested in this stuff than you may have thought before. And I think with YouTube also, I've seen this time and time again. I keep my eye on other creators just very casually. I don't go too crazy into like tracking other people's analytics, but especially small creators I watch. And I think the algorithm specifically will reward those that are consistent across time, and they're also willing to iterate and make improvements and not just stick to some formula. And so if you're just constantly doing the same thing and not like updating visuals or messaging or format or any of this stuff, good luck. You're probably not going to make it. But if you are consistent and you apply all that creativity on top of that consistency, eventually it'll happen. You have to be bringing something new for it to eventually trigger. But YouTube, you have to think about the platform. It wants to encourage creators. So I think there is some factor there that at some point it just chooses a video. And I don't think you can really make a video go viral. I mean, you kind of can, but in general, I think it just chooses one at some point. And it may not be your best video. It definitely probably won't be. It may not be your most creative or the best thumbnail. But at some point, it just pushes a wave of interest behind it. And then from there, you can start to be a little bit more precise and hopefully guide it along.
That's good insight. We appreciate that, being on sort of the front side of that wave ourselves. We're paddling out into the seas.
Yeah, that's great.
So Mike and I, like I said, we're fans of your show, and we watch it fairly regularly. And so wanted to get into like a few things in relation to the topics that you cover. The first one we had listed was, you know, kind of the solar terrestrial physics community versus the climate change community. Mike, did you want to say something on that?
Yeah, so you describe yourself as a geophysicist. You're obviously doing research into the physics of Earth, solar interactions with the Earth. Have you observed collaboration between those research areas and the climate change, like IPCC type of meteorology, climatology research fronts? Or is that something you think that's separate? What have you observed in your time?
Yeah, no, I haven't seen much overlap. And so I'm actually a little odd in the fact that I pull info from both camps because you wouldn't have such a well-developed, let's say, climate change group if there wasn't something to it. Now, I'm not saying everything's correct. A lot of this stuff is based off of models, and it's driven to acquire funding for certain green energy projects. There's a lot wrong there, but fundamentally, it's not complete lies and hogwash. There is some good info there, and then with the solar stuff, it's likewise. There's also some good info there, but what happens, and this is just in general, and this kind of touches on a little bit what we were talking about earlier, is that there's just so much polarity right now in the world, so much division that most people, and I said this statement earlier, I was talking to my aunt about this, and she was like, that was really something. I'm thinking about that. I think in a world that's ever changing and becoming less and less stable, a lot of people are finding stability in their beliefs. And so they have to they go 100% all in because they can just believe that, and that gives them some sense of purpose, but also like foundation. Whereas personally, I found stability in myself. When I quit my job and jumped off that cliff, you could say, as being an entrepreneur and just making it work, and you're starting to flap your wings, you're like, I hope this works, right? You just learn stability in yourself. I had piggy banks, but I didn't want to break them because these are like investments for the future. So I'm out there living in hostels in Europe, hoping to not spend more than $50 a day, if that, right? Like you learn self-determination and grit, and most people haven't gone through that process or had that coming of age journey. And you can have that any point in your life. It doesn't have to be 18 or 16, though ancient cultures would put that early on, which is very smart of them.
Subscribe to Mike and Dave's Multiverse on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble today.